Yeah. We back at it again, y'all. First official. Yeah. Is Rivers Frank one of the most unsung of all time? Can a bloodline be resurrected from obscurity? Is Boudreaux selling Mayfield dogs undercover? Let us analyze the evidence on this episode of Bulldog Court. Bulldog community, please rise. This is your host, Get a Hold James, because we got to get a hold of the game.
Court is now in session.
Yeah. This is your host, Get a Hold James, because we got to get a hold of the game. I'm so happy, more than happy, about the demo edition of Bulldog Court. I look at it as a complete success because I really don't even know how I was able to just get it all together. But it turned out to be a success because it came out, something I had in my head to come out with and was able to manifest that. So I think that was success within itself. And then too, I want to thank, the Bulldog community for really coming out and just taking a listen to it, And then on top of that, that made it even greater, the Honorable J-Bo, nonstop, on Bulldogging with Bo, on Dogman TV, did a show on a day they don't normally do it, just to talk about the different cases that was on Bulldog Court. And I really appreciate those guys, those fine dog men over there, for just continuing the dialogue, continuing the conversation within the Bulldog community. And that's really what it's about. All of these things are historical things for anybody who's new to listening to this. A lot of these things are historical. It really wouldn't make a difference one way or another, whichever the case may be. But it's just fun to have these talks about different things pertaining to the history of this breed. And hopefully we can continue to push the breed further and in a greater light. But, going into this episode, a few things that I want to talk about. The first case is Rivers Frank the most unsung of all time? And I want to preface this by what I mean by unsung. Unsung is like, like the TV show Unsung, when they talk about groups and artists that was around, they had hit records, but you never heard from them again, or they was around, but they was kind of underrated. There was others around that was far greater, but that don't mean that they don't get their respect. And, they light shined on them for their accomplishment. I look at Rivers Frank as one of those dogs, I think he's a dog that deserves recognition. He been unsung. He been overlooked. He don't have, the tremendous grand champions and champions behind his name, but he appears in so many other grand champions and champions down the line, so, I'm just gonna present the case for Rivers Frank and understand that I am not the judge nor jury, for it's up to the Bulldog community to decide. Now, before we begin, if you have no idea who Rivers Frank is, check out the video on Rivers Frank so you can better know who he is. We know Rivers Frank produced Sylvester's Pearl off of Patches. The heavy stomping out of Arch Missy female. Sylvester's Pearl went on to produce Shorty Pearl, Bobby Hall and Witzel's Shorty Pearl. That's a famous dog. If you know anything about Bobby Hall dogs, Shorty Pearl is a famous dog. And also Hall and Whistle Psycho. Shorty Pearl will go on to produce Grand Champion Spike, Hall's Grand Champion Spike. So you see what I'm saying? Well, he wasn't the dog that produced the great dog, but he sure was close in the lineage into that wormhole that produced a great dog. And Shorty Pearl also produced Hall and Paul's Elijah. You know, Shorty Pearl also produced Hall's Yard Sale. If anybody know anything about those dogs, those should ring loud and clear to your ears. Another dog off of Rivers Frank was Mad's White Missy. I'm quite sure people know, you know, she was bred to some of the best of her day. You know, being bred to Dead Serious Kennels El Diablo Negro, to Guerrero's Champion Mallet, and the Grand Champion Banjo. Okay. Now, Game Tight had a dog called Diabolita. I believe I pronounced it right. She produced Game Tight's Pete one-time winner. But White Missy bred the Banjo was the lick. Producing like boot camp clicks, Whip It. And, you know, you might hear J-Bo talk about, you know, the dogs that came out of Whip It, like Polito and Point Man, dogs of that nature. You go on, and you know, by the way, you know, a lot of people say, and it's in the description if you look at the pedigree on Whip It, that Whip It would have been more than what he was had he not lost his Hartwell. So we could have been looking at another possible champion, grandson of Rivers Frank, had it not been for unforeseen circumstances that happened to him. Then you have Haynes Brindle off of Frank that produced Haynes Apache, who produced Watson's Buster. Now, I'm personally familiar with Watson's Buster, got a chance to see him, pat him on the head. Heck of a producer, and he would end up producing Cottonmouth and War Eagles Champion Viper. People like Eli Monster in the Bulldog community mention this dog a lot. A tremendous animal, which is a great granddaughter of Rivers Frank. Charles Earl T, a son of Frank, produced Red Rock, and then that produced Cottonmouth Jules, another dog I personally saw back in the days. And she produced a lot of good dogs, and most people will probably know about Cottonmouth Biscuit off of Jules, bred to guess who? Watson's Buster. Another one is, you know, they took Frank and bred him back to his daughter, Almendarez's Miss Texas, to produce Creel's Gator. People in the Louisiana, Mississippi area, Texas area, East Texas know about Creel, to produce Creel's Gator, who produced Creel's Sweet Pea, who produced Creel's Goldie, P-O-R, producer of record, and also Kirkland's Bunny, when bred into Grand Champion Texas, and Kirkland's Champion Freebie Blood. Okay? So this is just the case I'm presenting for Rivers Frank being one of those dogs of the unsung type. He is a dog I think that we should recognize as one of those unsung dogs. There's so many great dogs that we can go down this wormhole of legendary dogs like Jeep, and we can go down the wormhole of these dogs being tremendous animals. And to see that they produce this champion, and then this dog, and then that dog produced this champion, and then a female out of that produced that grand champion, and we can go down that wormhole on so many other notable dogs. But sometimes you want to shine a light on one of the ones who may not get a light, who may not have ROM or POR behind their name, but nevertheless their name appear in so many great dogs, it's kind of hard to ignore them. So for the Bulldog community, do you feel as though River Frank is one of the most unsung dogs of all time by the evidence presented? I'm sure there's other people who can probably present even more information about this. Please feel free to put your information, your case for or against into the comment section, into the chat, and we will discuss. So the case of, is Rivers Frank the most unsung of all time? The case is now dismissed. For our next case, a few things we want to look at. Can a bloodline be resurrected from obscurity? Get into the definition of obscurity for those that may not be aware. The definition of obscurity is the state of being unknown, inconspicuous, or unimportant. So we have a lot of bloodlines that have fell along the wayside for whatever the circumstances may have been. They are no longer around, unimportant, irrelevant in the now. There may be still pieces here and there still lingering somewhere in America, somewhere in the world. My thing is it even worth saving? People will have, a different opinion about this. They may feel as though, well, it was a reason why it didn't survive. Let the past stand in the past. You chasing ghosts. You should be more in the present of animals that are producing well, who are performance-based animals. You should not be chasing these ghosts of the past. And then on the other hand, I'm reminded of a group of guys way back, maybe 60, 70 years ago. Bob Wallace, Bob Hemphill, Wilder, Creed, that had Grand Champion Red Devil, scoured this country to find these different lightner dogs that had produced a certain genotype to create a red nose. Okay? These guys went everywhere to find these particular animals. They were not all in one bunch. They was different places in America in a time when most people didn't even have a TV set, much less a telephone. So you usually had to make your correspondence through pen and a pad, putting it in the mailbox, and they was able to establish what we now know as OFRN, the Old Family Red Nose. Now, another question within the question is, within that, is there anybody even willing to do that type of leg work, internet work, networking, to be able to even find the animals, to put the pieces back together, to salvage that what was once lost or is now unimportant or inconspicuous? The obscurity of it all. Is there anybody that even willing to go out there and invest that type of time, money, and everything, travel, or whatever the case may be, to acquire these animals? We see less and less Zebo dogs out here today. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? But where in the world did the Whack and Spack dogs go, y'all? Where did they go? After Mr. Whack and Spack passed, where did the animals go? Louisiana Smith, the Honorable J-Bo, he talked about this. At one time, those dogs were everywhere. Gentleman comes and buy the entire yard. We never see them again. The Hargroves Grand Champion Rufus dogs, here and there. There are different bloodlines that, in the last decade, maybe 15 years ago or less, Gambler's Grand Champion Virgil dogs had moved in rapid pace across America. Now, not so much. I very rarely ever hear anybody even mention Gambler's Grand Champion Virgil. And he was the youngest Register of Merit in history. He achieved the Register of Merit title quicker than any other American Pit Bull Terrier in history, and now you don't even hear his name. Very rare. Is it because they had a problem with the man-biting issue? I don't know. But then, like I said, who will be those people that will save or bring these bloodlines back from obscurity? Then you have, I understand. There will be others who will say, past be the past, bro. Let them old dogs alone. I don't know why y'all keep trying to go back in the past.
Come on, man.
Them dogs ain't one worth nothing, probably did. They're not worth nothing now. But some of these dogs, they really worth. But they're gonna pay their case on that side to say what they're saying about. But there's a lot of animals here today that are relevant today for a reason. There are animals that were relevant 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and they're still relevant today. Jeep, Red Boy, Tab, etc., who were relevant then and are relevant now. You know, not just, and when you talk about Carver dogs, you know, rest in peace to Mr. Lacefield, who just passed away. And you have a situation where some of these older dog men are to themselves. They don't really sell dogs to anybody. They only let maybe a small portion of their animals get out. And when they pass, all of a sudden, there's nobody in place that they pass the torch to get the animals. So now their wife, you know, the widow or whatever the case may be, some of the family members are left scrambling, possibly even giving away all of the blood, sweat, and tears of hard work that these older dog men, they had put into these animals and invested into these animals. They're just giving them away. They're not really, because they don't have the same value in these animals that the person that passed did. They don't have that same value. So they just trying to get rid of them because they're not going to go out there and feed all those dogs. You know, and some of the old ladies may not even like them having dogs, but they just put up with them because, you know, he the man, and so I put up with it, but I could care less. I don't want them inside my house, you know. And so you have situations like this, and then where do the Lacefield dogs go? If there was I don't know the situation. If there's nobody in place, where do the Lacefield dogs go? Are they going to be scattered across the world, never to be seen from and heard from again in any type of prominent thing? Or will it be a situation where it fall into somebody's hands or a group of guys' hands that will maintain the standard and keep it for future generations, so that other dog men can enjoy and have? So this is my case that I'm presenting to the Bulldog community for you to decide. Can a bloodline be resurrected from obscurity? The case is now dismissed. Okay, we about to get into this third case. Before I even begin this case, I want to give all respect and honor due to the Boudreaux, the Boudreaux family. There's nothing that anybody can do about the past. I repeat, there is nothing anyone can do about the past. The past is just what it is. It's the past. But if we look at the past and we see where, you know. So let me go ahead and get this case started. Has Boudreaux been selling Mayfield dogs undercover all this time? The reason why I even bring this up is if you go to the video that we have on Sporting Dog Archive, we'll see where the letter that Mayfield sent to Boudreaux. And in that letter, he talk about the breeding between Little Cotton and Crybaby. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you might have to find the pedigree of Tudor's Crybaby or Mayfield's Crybaby and look at the breeding of what Mayfield's account says that Boudreaux Eli pedigree really is. Okay? The female was owned by Mayfield's Tudor dog. Really a lot of Heinzel, typical Dabo Heinzel, Hubbard's bounce, type of dog. So when you look at this pedigree and you hear the story or the letter that Mayfield wrote to Mr. Boudreaux, if this is true, I'm cutting it with a barred axe, as my OG would say. I'm cutting it with a barred axe. If this is true, and there is boatloads of Eli dogs all across the globe, one of the greatest brands in Bulldog history, period. Point blank, end of discussion. You can go ahead and close church. You understand? But is he been selling Mayfield dogs all of this time? All of this time he is by the letter his own undoing been the greatest promoter of a Mayfield dog in the history of Bulldog. Now, some people who not gonna agree with this assessment, nor would they agree with Mayfield's story. Okay? There are other people, Sonny Sykes, people of that nature who confirm Mayfield's story. All I'm saying is, on one side, you can say, hey, he the greatest promoter. If that is true, he is the greatest promoter of Mayfield dogs all time. On the other side, you could choose to believe the original pedigree and leave all those chips where they may. Every time I look at this picture, and it may have something to do with this and may not. Every time I look at, if anybody ever looks at the picture of Miles Davis, just go look at that pedigree and look at that picture. Now he is off of Mason's Champion Smiley on top. He's off a double bred Jeep, son of Jeep. But his bottom side is all Mayfield Sunshine, just about. Extremely heavy Mayfield's inward type of dog. And if you look at that dog, he looks like he could be on Boudreaux's yard. Jet black, gold eyes, the typical to the nines look of a typical Boudreaux dog. I've actually been on Boudreaux's yard. I've seen the uniformity of his yard. Only one brown dog. I think that was the last son of Case Cujo. And that was it. Everybody else was black dogs. Light brown eyes. Well built, extremely powerfully built animals. Boudreaux's Reno was out there. Boudreaux's little buddy was out there. And it's just something that I'm bringing forth to the Bulldog community. Has Boudreaux been selling Mayfield dogs undercover all this time? And do you agree with that? Now,
look at this. Somebody come look at this.
Who is this coming in here? Mr. Boudreaux? Mr. Boudreaux, I'm just making an assessment. I'm not trying to... We'll get back to the show after these important messages.
Check out one of the best dog talk shows out here, Bulldogging with Bo, on Dogman TV, Thursdays and Sundays, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Shout out to his co-host, Nonstop.
Hey, it's time for my closing monologue. Look like we're gonna have to do the closing monologue not only outside of Bulldog courtroom, but outside of the Bulldog courthouse. Just be mindful of what you say about people. That's the word for the day. 'Cause they may come to your studio with a pistol ready for war. Y'all take it easy. This is your host. Get a hold, Jane. 'Cause we got to get a hold of the game. One.